1 o'clock on the West Coast. It's Hug Nation time all over the world. If you're watching this on archive, welcome from the past. And thank you for releasing this love, hug, united oneness energy into your present. And participating and absorbing and reflecting. Just thank you. What an honor to share this experience with you. Before we start, let's just take a little gratitude break. Shake off the day. Thank you, universe, for all of the blessings. Help us to focus on the good. Help us to focus on the joy and the miracles and the gifts in the present moment. Amen. All right, welcome. Well, let us see. Boy, do I have stuff to talk about today. And yet I have nothing to talk about. I've been reading, I just read the Tao Te Cha-Ching over the last couple days. And if it says anything, it says, if you're talking about it, then you don't know what you're talking about. Which is kind of a daunting way to start a book report. The minute you try to explain this book, you've failed. So a little backstory. I mentioned in the promo that I lost my job, and that was, I'll admit it, that was I was baiting, I was kind of fishing a little bit. I have not lost my job, partially because I don't have a job. I run a company, a consulting business, and for the past year, I've had one main client, and that client cut the contract. So, I still run a company, I just have no revenue. So that's what that meant. And if you've been following the last few weeks or months or whatever, I think I'm fine with that. In fact, I'm kind of looking forward to that. I actually have 2 meetings this week about potential new clients, and there's a part of me that's like, please don't throw the ball to me. Please don't throw the ball to me. Please don't throw the ball to me. You know, kind of like, I don't really want it, but I'm trying to do what I want. And a lot of people have left me comments because I was fishing and said, oh, I lost my job. Saying, oh, I'm sorry, and I'm not at all. If it was a great gig and if it continued, that would be fantastic. I learned a ton. I got to work with some great people. But I have that kind of attitude about relationships as well. You know, like I don't, you know, in the present moment, nothing is lacking. I can look back on the past and be happy about those things and look at those things positively, but it does really no good for me to say, like, oh man, I wish that was still now. All that does is point out, all that does is drip yuck into a perfect now. That's the whole point of Be Here Now. The whole point of Eckhart Tolle and the power of now is that you don't sacrifice the present moment by either visiting a torturous future that may or may not ever occur, or dragging in a past that you wish was now. Both of those things bring in a feeling of lack, a feeling of something's missing, something's wrong, into a perfect present moment. The present moment is always perfect. Nothing is lacking in the present. That has been one of my mantras the last couple weeks when I kind of slip out and I start to worry. It's like, wait, what is missing right now? Nothing, right? The float more, steer less idea that I've adopted and really brought to the forefront in 2010 is like an oversimplified version of the Tao Te Ching. Float more, steer less. Well, that's the whole point of all of it, is this kind of this doing nothingness. When I was in oh boy, this was 15, 20 years ago almost. I was in Tokyo, and I stayed for a week in a meditation dojo as part of a school program that I did. And the guy who ran it, he's probably like 4 feet tall. He looked like a cartoon of a Buddhist monk. And his job was he was a Buddhist consultant for this massive corporation, and they would call him in to get his wisdom on the most, I guess, the Buddhist flow, Taoist way. Again, this is hard for me because at the time I was so ignorant of a lot of the stuff. I don't know exactly what was the belief system, but anyway, the point was it was a Zazen meditation. He was a Zazen master. And so during my week there, I was able to have an audience with him. And I sat, and I was like, I was not a big meditation guy. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not really understanding this. Like, I'm not getting it. I'm not really feeling like, oh, like, what am I doing? And he goes, in Zazen, we sit. And I was like, yeah, okay, but what should I be thinking? And he goes, sit. He goes, but if I sit, like, all right, but sit. And I was like, he goes, I sit for 20 years before I know why I sit. And I was like, oh, you should not be writing the brochures, because telling someone they got to do something for 20 years before it makes any sense, I'm more of a give me a pill and let me figure this thing out quickly kind of way. So, needless to say, meditation did not become a huge part of my life, but it's very much congruent with this stuff that I'm talking about right now, or that I'm trying to explore right now. This whole look, it's not a doing. There is no thing to do. In fact, you need to start spending your energy not on doing anything, but on freeing yourself from all of this pressure to do, which isn't an inaction. It's not an inactivity. It's stripping away of ambition. That has been a word that has been going over me a lot lately, is trying to become free of ambition. Because ambition, so much of what we are taught to be and do and want, so much of what we see success is really the anti-Tao. It is seeing yourself as and making yourself separate so that then you can be better. You can. I mean, success in our culture is someone who gets out of the normal, out of the average, and they become richer, more famous, all of these things, which is separation. It's not sinking into a feeling of oneness and connection. We define success as what I'm starting to learn is a spiritual prison. So we train ourselves in a loving way, We encourage people, we get them in the best schools and give them the best training and, trying to get them whatever they can so they can be special. So that then you get into your spiritual prison where you are separate and better. And as long as you can keep winning, then you can be happy. You can't keep winning, though. It's a Ponzi scheme against yourself. You cannot pyramid and constantly win. It's so simple that it's revolutionary. I'm constantly fighting that urge to achieve success. Even when I'm, so right now I'm in the state of lack of revenue. Unemployment, we'll say. But not really, because I believe that unemployment and self-employment are simply matters of mind's perspective. I'm excited right now because I have more energy to focus on self-employment. And it actually goes very much along with this stuff because I feel so much pressure to stay up to date, to know what's going on. I look at my Twitter stream and there's all sorts of conferences and links and people doing updates and videos, and I feel kind of like I should be keep up to date on this. I should be following this. I should know what's going on. I should be there. I should know that. I should. And there's a lot of very logical reasons why that is true. Totally contrary to all of that is what the Tao Te Ching says, what Walden 2 says, which of these things of like, that's not living. Living, and the goal is not winning this straight and narrow race. The winning is pulling back and going, oh. I had lunch last week with a friend of mine, actually a guy that I've known since high school, and, well, actually since junior high, now that I think about it, but we got reacquainted at my high school reunion last couple months ago. And so we started having lunch together. And I really am enjoying the lunches. He is kind of what I am redefining success to be. If you take our traditional definitions of success as someone who has become separate, trying to achieve with ambition, going beyond, a regular life. He works hard, has a solid family, much open communication. He leads an examined life. He's constantly, he identifies as a Christian, but he's constantly reading the Bible and thinking about it, and reading other books and trying to, like Eckhart Tolle, some of these reading, and he's. I find that his perspective to be very invigorating as I talk to him. Partially because he's very well read about biblical things. So as I ask questions about, well, isn't it kind of like this? He's not just read it. He's thought it through in a very broad-minded way, so that I don't feel like, that I can fit in my wacky new age. There's a little bit of Devo and soft cell in there, so maybe it's new wave too. Into biblical ideas and stories. I mean, to me, all sacred texts are just tools, All sacred texts are fingers pointing to the moon. And so, if you get a sense of what the moon is from the text, then awesome. But if anytime you start questioning what the moon is all about, you get preoccupied with the cuticle and, the exact direction of the finger that's pointing to it. It's like, I not to be critical of other people's past and what works for them. It's just that that just doesn't resonate with me at all. Kimbermat says the dog gets confused by the finger. Exactly. I think that a lot of spiritual institutions and dogma is a lot like that. Like, see the ball, whoo, and then you pocket it, and we run around going. So what I was asking, I was actually talking. I was kind of making fun of the idea that you hear, where people are like, oh, you can do whatever you want in your life, and then on your deathbed you just ask forgiveness and ask Jesus into your heart, and in that moment you are absolved of all sins and go to heaven. And I was kind of like making fun of that, and I was like, wait a minute, vroom. And I was like, that actually resonates. That actually makes total sense if I just open up the metaphor a little bit and say, okay, if in that moment, in the moment that you have forgiveness, you ask forgiveness, and what you're really doing is, because I believe that Jesus is not so much a person, but as a role model or an ideal self that we all have the ability to become. I don't think it's somebody who is. I don't think of Jesus as a god. I think of Jesus as our godlike state that we that we aspire to as we strip away the crap. So if in that moment of forgiveness, you ask forgiveness, if you're recognizing that this ego self of mine is responsible for all of these decisions that I may have shame for, again, that's that past that I'm bringing into the present now. Or, or fears, or any of these things that I'm bringing into the present, but I'm saying in that moment, I forgive myself for these human, this mortal thoughts, this, because if in that moment I can recognize that all human thought, all ambition, all of these choices, everything of that path, that very ego path is flawed. It's lacking. It can never be as pure as the divine. And so in that moment of recognition, what we're doing is actually recognizing that's not who I am. That ego self that is responsible for this path that I think that I'm asking forgiveness from, that's not even who I am. That accepting Jesus into my heart, from my understanding, my interpretation, that Jesus is that ideal self of me. If I accept that ideal self of me, that divine self of my own, of that is a part of, that is what I am, in that moment of forgiveness and acceptance, what I'm really doing is saying, I am connected. I am part of the one. I am simply one with the divine. There is no separation. Anything that ego story feels guilt or anything about, that's not who I am. That's something separate. And in that moment of awareness, that instant moment of self-forgiveness, that instant moment of accepting the Jesus energy into my heart, I exist in heaven because I am one with the divine. There is no separation. I am in heaven. I see now that idea. I know that many Christians don't like people playing with interpretations of their sacred text, but for me it was kind of like, oh crap, I get that sense more and more now, actually, that the more I read, the more I feel like the ideas, the words, the stories, they go all over the place, but the direction and the flow, the moon is constant. One of the great gifts that my grandpa gave me is this open-mindedness from a place of experience. Meaning, he lived a lifetime of the path of a religious man, not just spiritual, religious man. Like he followed the rules. He preached fire and brimstone. He studied the text. He gave sermons. He lived a man of God in a Baptist tradition for years and years and years and years, walking the walk. And then over time, just as a rock in a river, certain things in his belief system started to get shaped and softened, and some things started to just and so he started to question some things. That's why he got involved with civil rights, and later he got involved with gay rights, and then all through his life was involved with political things, because it just, when he went back to the teachings of Jesus, he realized that there were certain things that, what would Jesus do? I mean, that was kind of how he tried to live. How can I be more Christ-like in my life? And a profound gift that he gave me was letting me know that awareness is not anchored in the specifics of a belief system. One of the first things he did, when I sent him a Christmas card that I made, before I was online, actually, it was a photograph. I had a photograph printed, and then I put it on a Xeroxed thing. It was a picture of me in Big Sur, like jumping and enjoying the nature of it. And he actually said, "Oh, thank you so much for that photograph of you at worship." It was like he was recognizing that this natural setting, this beauty was a sacred experience for me. And that got stronger as we got closer later, when he totally embraced Burning Man. One of the reasons that I think I get so much out of Burning Man is that he gave me permission to. He saw it as a sacred thing for me. He saw it as every bit as powerful a teacher as the church was to him. In fact, I think, after as many people have become a little frustrated with some of the things that churches try to teach and instill. And so when he saw the energy and the love that my community was generating through Burning Man, he had no judgment based on the way it looked. He knew what it was. And so having him give me that permission and acknowledging that, look, don't get caught up in the form, man. Don't get caught up on the finger. If you can get a sense of the moon, who cares if it's covered in fur and pink and fire? And I think that is, so when people say, what would Grandpa Caleb think? Well, I think he would recognize, I can't see it like you see it. So however you see it, if it gets you to the moon, rock and roll. The book that he gave me, do I have it? Where do I have it? Anyway, he gave me this book, All Religions Are True, that Gandhi wrote. And then the whole premise of that book is that you can never understand somebody else's spiritual path. It's impossible. Impossible. All you can do is gain appreciation that everyone's path is shaped by their experiences. So whatever experiences pile up on you to create your ego, that's going to shape whatever tools you need to strip that away so that you can feel the moon. I know that this little brief Hug Nation dip into the cosmic stream that we share every week is a profound recalibration for me that is immeasurable in helping me. So let's just take a break right here from our needs, thoughts, wants, strugglings, trying to figure it all out, and just shake that all off. Acknowledge that you have a story that you carry with you, a story that you use to define your needs. And nothing wrong with that. But let's just let go of that story for a moment. Let's sink into this moment right now where nothing is lacking. And know that beneath your socialized story of what you are and what you need and who you care about, what your values are, deep down beneath that is something that is without definition and story. It is a timeless oneness, loving light. You are a ray, a sunbeam coming from the one, the divine, the love that is of and all things. And from that place, we can recognize that all the people we see in our world, all the people we cross paths with, these are just miraculous other sunbeams filtered through different clouds or whatever. But the point is that we can't let the stories that get attached to these sunbeams be how we see them. See beneath the story and see the sunbeam. And then everyone that you encounter is just another miraculous little embodiment of the divine. So as we forgive ourselves our story, forgive everyone else's, and let's just grab ourselves by the shoulders. Thank this body that takes us through the world. Squeeze it. Imagine the arm squeezing you, or the arms of all those other people that have been a part of your world this week. And as you squeeze, imagine you're squeezing them. Thanking this body, thanking those bodies as being trusty steeds to carry our energy around. But let's sink down and just be a part of that energy as it is indistinguishable from all the others. Just for a few seconds, let's just sit in that oneness and being a part of the energy. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb, all the individual love warriors who are representations of the One, happy Hug Nation. I love you! Thank you for bringing your self to this and then surrendering to it. Just thank you. What an honor to share this experience with you.
You only live once. Enjoy the color.